From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Since the recent terrorist attack in Paris, quite a political battle has broken out about allowing Syrian refugees to come into this country. The fight has been both national and here in Tennessee, especially after one of the terrorists in Paris was found to have a passport identifying himself as a Syrian refugee who had made his way through Europe. Today on Inside Politics, we'll take an in-depth look at this issue. In our second segment, we'll talk with Nashville Democratic Representative John Ray Clemens and Holly Johnson, the state refugee coordinator for Catholic Charities. But first, we welcome two Republican state senators, Bill Ketchrin right next to me and Jim Tracy next to him, to the show. They both have concerns about the Syrian refugee situation. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Senator Ketchrin, America's long been known as a refuge for those fleeing both tyranny and chaos. That's what we certainly see going on in Syria with their civil war. So what's your concern about having them come over here?
Well, for those who are trying to disguise themselves coming through as a refugee, who are actually terrorists, and several have been caught just as late as day before yesterday in Honduras. There were several caught. There were some 5 or 6 caught in Laredo at Texas border.
But Senator Tracy, there's been, I think, several 100,000 people who've come into this country as refugees since 9/11, and none of them have been charged with terrorism. So maybe why this is a coming problem, it has not been a problem so far with those who've come into the country as refugees.
Yeah, and we're in a different state in 2015. We've got ISIS now that have publicly said they're going to try to embed the refugees. So as elected officials, whether it be at the national level, like Congress voted yesterday to put a pause, and that was a bipartisan vote, over 40-something Democrats voted to put a pause on the refugee program coming from Syria. I think that is the common sense thing to do for us right now, to make sure they're properly vetted, make sure who they are, and they're not involved with ISIS.
Governor Haslam has asked for a pause as well, at least for them coming in here, until the states are more involved. What do you see that state involvement needing to be, and what role does the state really play in this? After all, this is a federal program.
It is a federal program. I do see, and from talking to the governor's staff, I think they want Homeland Security at the state level to be involved. I think that all the governors, from listening to the comments from other governors, they would like to know how many are coming in, what time frame they're coming in, where they're coming in from. I think our Homeland Security at the state level needs to be involved.
This is for all refugees, not necessarily just for the Syrians or those coming from Iraq. Senator Ketchrin, you're drafting legislation to actually find out more about the costs for this. Aren't these costs already available either in the federal or state budgets in some places? Why do you need additional legislation?
Well, we haven't had that information of what the costs are. Just this information I have right here, what it's costing us for ELL right now on the graph that will be part of my bill.
How much of that's due to refugees?
All of this is due to refugees and illegals. So combine the two, illegals and that are coming in. So from 2012 to 2015, ELL of what we're spending statewide for English language learners has increased from 49% to 60.2%.
Of the money that's spent?
That is correct, by local school boards.
Now, Senator Tracy, you've already passed a bill that requires some information to be given to you by Catholic Charities, who handles the immigration and refugee services here in the state. So there's already on the books or in the coffers information about some of this right now that they're looking for.
That's correct. There's a law on the books now with Catholic Charities, the Absorptive Capacity Act, and it's geared more at the local level, that the locals can have the capacity to handle the refugees, whether it be through the school system, the court system, housing, jobs. So we've already put that in place in 2011, so we were really ahead of the game. Actually, Pat, the State Department came down and visited with Senator Ketchrin and myself. They wasn't real happy with the legislation because it does in there.
You passed this 2 years ago.
2011, 4 years ago.
4 years ago. I understand there's only so far in this last year only about 30 or 40 Syrian refugees who've actually been relocated to Tennessee, so we're not talking about huge numbers.
All it took, Pat, was 8 in Paris.
to increase the numbers that much.
No. There were 8 terrorists in Paris. All it takes is 2 or 3.
But most of these refugees, I understand it, are women and children. They're not terrorists.
No, I think you're wrong on that. I think
they're bringing in a lot of young men who are like
I think 62%. The figure I saw yesterday, 62% of all the refugees that are coming in are military-age males, not women and children. And so whatever the president is putting out there that's women and children and orphans, I think he's totally wrong. I disagree with it.
The bill that passed the House yesterday, Senator Tracy, is it sufficient for what you think you need to do as far as this pause is concerned and additional things? Does this give you some relief about this matter, that maybe there are as many things for the state to have to worry about?
I do. I think it helps, and I think it not only me, it helps the constituents in Senator Ketcher and I's district. They're concerned about it. As we talked off the air, I've probably got more phone calls and emails about this topic than I've had in 10 years. People are concerned.
Now let me ask you to respond to some comments that were made by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under Republican president, I believe under George W. Bush. She told a group down in Alabama what the United States has done to be open to people fleeing tyranny, who are fleeing dangers. Well, what we've done so in a very careful way that has worked for us. It sounds like she thinks the program, as it's been doing, has been done very well. So why take issue with that?
Things have changed since she made that. When did she make that comment?
She made that comment this week. She made this within just the last couple of days. I mean, she basically said the program works well now. We don't need a lot of change in it.
Well, she's no longer in that position. Of course, that's
she's changed that drastically.
Well, I think it has. I think it has, and we should be. What happened in Chattanooga?
Well, that was not from a refugee.
Not from a refugee, but he migrated here, and so with ISIS, FBI director said that ISIS is in every state right now, and all they have to do is band together with those who are coming in who are sympathetic to that cause, and all it takes is 2 or 3 to cause mass confusion right across the street at Titan Stadium.
Now, there's another fellow legislator in Ohio who was quoted as saying he's concerned about these Syrian refugees coming over because they might come here, easily purchase guns, and commit a terrorist attacks. Is that one of your concerns? And if the gun laws are so easy that terrorists can buy them in this state, shouldn't the gun laws be looked at too?
Oh, I agree. I agree.
What kind of legislation would you bring to keep terrorists from being able to buy guns in Tennessee?
Well,
if they're any kind of foreign nationality, they can't buy guns here.
And that's one of the problems that we're having right now is because all the fake documents that from the passports and stuff that are being confiscated from these guys trying to come in.
But Senator Tracy, in terms of stopping terrorism, I think we've learned that terrorists have no nationality. They go beyond nationality. You can't just look at them and say, "Oh, that's a terrorist."
Oh, I agree.
So what do we do to stop that, since it can be any kind of person?
Well, that's why it's difficult. As you've heard all the FBI and Secret Service, everyone says it's a difficult situation because they're embedding in our society now, and they may be dormant for 4 or 5 years. And you're right. It's hard to tell by looking or talking. It's I think all of us as citizens need to be vigilant.
Senator Ketron, one of your colleagues in the House, Glenn Cassida from Williamson County, basically asked the governor to mobilize the National Guard to go out and round up the current Syrian refugees. Do you want to go that far? These people haven't done anything wrong, so why would we want to round them up like that?
I think that's a mistake, and all due respect to my colleague in the House, I think that was a mistake. It's just there's no way to physically do that.
Senator Tracy, he also talked about monitoring the current Syrians here, which sounded a little bit like spying on them to see exactly what they're doing. He also talked about civil disobedience to stop any of the Syrian refugees from coming down here. Is that fear-mongering?
Well, I just don't agree with that. I do think the right thing was done yesterday by Congress. I do think we need to be vigilant. We use common sense to vet these folks and let people know that we're going to do our best. Senator Ketcher and I are senators, Governor Haslam. We're here to make sure the citizens of Tennessee are safe to the best of our ability, and that's what I think we're going to try to do, and to try to do that.
Now, the president of France says he wants his country to take another 30,000 Syrian refugees. Is the U.S. doing what it needs to do to take care of this humanitarian disaster?
I can tell you what I would do if I had the ability to do it. I think we need a safe zone over in some of the Middle East countries and have these folks live in their own country, particularly in Syria, and build a coalition between France and all these other countries, build a safe zone for them to stay there. So when this regime that's up in Syria, they can stay in their homeland. That's really what they want to do, but from listening to them, they're very, I mean, it's especially on the Christians over there, they're murdering them, and even other Muslims, they're murdering them if they don't follow the regime.
State Senator Jim Tracy, thank you for joining us. Senator Bill Ketron, thank you for joining us. I'm sure this will be a major issue when the legislature comes back in January.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
We'll be talking back another side of this issue on the second part of the show. Stay with us. We'll be talking about the continuing controversy over Syrian refugees coming to the U.S. after this message.
Thank you, guys.